Welcome into a brand new edition of the Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas. And Mike, it is a monster day in Cleveland. The Browns have extended Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry long-term deals. The sky is bright, my friend.
It's a long time coming. It is
Oh,
well.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I meant to say Deshaun Watson. They extended Deshaun Watson and
Yeah,
Kevin Stefanski.
that was a bad job out of me. I was so excited. It happened right before the show started, Frank, which, as you know, is the best time for breaking news. Literally, as the show was getting underway, we're sitting down at 10:53. The news broke, and one of the things we've been asking ourselves in Cleveland all summer is, hey, why hasn't this happened yet? Like, what's the holdup? What's the wait? Why not? And we all felt it was going to come. It just took much longer than anyone anticipated, but what's done is done. What is, and the Browns have a structure in place for the next few years that they haven't had in a
Yeah,
long time.
I can tell you, like, it's bad job by me, bad job by you for not bringing this up on previous podcasts. Like, why hasn't this gotten done sooner?
Well,
And
don't worry, we've talked about it enough here that there was no more airspace for that discussion. Don't worry.
well, we're glad it's done, and the Browns, the sky is looking up in the AFC North. All right, the Steelers are going down, the Bengals are going down, the Ravens are probably going to be really good. So we'll see what the future holds there. But JJ Reddick,
Yeah.
I was just this whole thing is not surprising and surprising in the sense that like as soon as like LeBron and JJ Reddick started their podcast and Lakers fired Darvin Ham, it seemed like, oh, they're gonna hire JJ Reddick. And that was my initial thought. And now it looks like it's gonna happen. JJ Reddick addressed that on the Golic podcast, and he said he's not gonna say anything specifically about the Shams report until after the NBA Finals, which is basically like he doesn't want to create a distraction. And as soon as the NBA Finals are over, the Lakers will formally introduce and announce that JJ Reddick is their next head coach. And you look at ESPN, which is just absolutely hilarious that they were so afraid that Jeff Van Gundy was going to leave, become coach, that they hired Doc Rivers, who didn't even make it, halfway through the season as their announcer for them, who was supposed to be their main guy for the finals. And then he leaves, and now they replace him with JJ Redick, and he's going to leave, and now they're going to be like, what do we do? It's just, you can't make this stuff up. They were afraid Jeff Van Gundy was going to leave to become a coach, that the next two guys who they thought were going to be their A1 finalists announcer for the finals take head coaching jobs, and Jeff Van Gundy probably wasn't. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the next step is the Lakers are going to draft Bronny James. And
I thought about that. I thought a lot about that. So, like, the Lakers, obviously, because the Pelicans, I believe it's the Pelicans, they decided to move their pick back. But, like, take a look at the draft order. I mean, I guess you're not wasting a top 10 pick on Bronny, but, like, imagine if, like, the Thunder drafted Bronny, or not that there's a spot for either of them on that team, but, like, the Kings or the Heat or the Sixers, like, why wouldn't you just completely just throw a wrench in what the Lakers are trying to do? Because I think it's pretty obvious the Lakers are going to draft Bronny at 17, assuming he's there. But if Bronny somehow gets drafted by, Philly or another team in that, top 16 or Miami, who says LeBron wouldn't bolt to Miami and leave? I mean, I can't. It's just, who does he have more allegiance to? JJ Reddick as Lakers coach or Bronny James' own son? I'd argue that it's probably Bronny James.
Well, it's definitely Bronny, and because it's a Clutch client and LeBron is who he is, Clutch is going to control this whole thing. He's declined draft workouts for every team except Phoenix and the Lakers. So read into that how you will. But yeah, this is just the next step in LeBron. It's funny because we talk about this player empowerment movement, and we're talking about it in Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell, and they're hiring a new head coach. Like, the power LeBron has over an organization is not just player power; it is ownership power. And he's going to tell the organization who to hire as a coach. They're going to tell him to draft his son. And he's going to have the perfect opportunity to sail off into the sunset, championship or not, playing with his son, with his friend as head coach. And we'll see if the Lakers are good. We'll see if JJ Reddick is a good head coach. Like, that is a big question mark, a giant what if. It's a lot different talking about the NBA than it is to actually coach in the NBA. And we know JJ is really good at what he does currently in the media. Will he be a good head coach? Who the hell knows?
I mean, he's a great podcaster. He makes great points. I don't know how great he is as, like, the number one voice in the NBA Finals.
That's what I'm saying. And like I said, that's a giant unknown. We won't know till next year. We can speculate.
No. His head coaching is an unknown. We've heard him as a broadcaster.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. His head coaching is unknown. What do you think I'm saying?
I was talking about his broadcasting, but
No,
anyway,
he's
go
great as a
ahead.
broadcaster. No, I'm saying like it's
I don't know if
overall,
he's great. You think he's great as a broadcaster?
he's accomplished. I'm not gonna argue whether or not JJ Reddick is the third best or the fifth best like media voice of basketball. But my point
You're
is,
not?
he's obviously accomplished a ton in the media space. We know he can do
Oh
that.
yeah, he's
Just because
accomplished.
you're good in media doesn't mean you're good as a head coach. We've seen a lot that have not worked, more that haven't worked than have. And we're gonna find out next year. But it is LeBron James's team. LeBron James is calling the shots. And whether it's JJ Reddick or Darvin Ham or Frank Vogel, you've been down to your best player, and right now LeBron has all the power.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. It just like what does ESPN do after this? Are they just going to go with Breen and Doris Burke? I can't imagine that's something that
No,
would go over too.
no.
So I mean Richard Jefferson, and then Richard Jefferson's become a head coach.
I like ball, so
We'll see what happens there. But I found it interesting. An interesting remark by CJ Stroud. He was on a podcast. I have no idea which podcast. Apologies about that. But he said he was asked whose career would we rather have, Eli Manning or Aaron Rodgers? And he said, oh, I want the rings, Eli Manning. And I know that because Eli Manning has 2 rings, Rodgers still has 1. But I broke down some numbers. Eli Manning in his football playing career made $252 million. Rodgers has already made $342 million and counting. Rodgers has thrown over 100 more touchdowns, over 100, basically 140 fewer interceptions, double the amount of double-digit win seasons, basically double the amount of playoff appearances. I just found it interesting. And I know that it's so easy just to say Eli Manning because he has more rings. Is that how you view that situation? And first of all, CJ Stroud should not have answered the question. He just CJ Stroud should have said, I want my career, because he should be aiming for 3, 4, 5, 6 championships, and to settle for it was just a bad. First of all, it's a bad answer, and I think the right answer is he just shouldn't have answered the question. But if I was to pick one of them, I'd probably go Rodgers because the more money, and the
Rodgers
fact
the
that
right answer. I listen. I love Eli Manning. He's my favorite athlete of all time. But Aaron Rodgers is the right answer. Let's be honest. Like, yes, Eli won 2 Super Bowls. Outside of those 2 years, he was solid. He was okay.
I mean, not even those 2 years, those 2 postseasons
Oh,
in the
that's what I'm
regular
saying.
season.
That's those 2 runs. Like, he was your middle of the pack quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a 4-time MVP. He's done and said some dumb stuff that I don't think he regrets, but I certainly don't care for. But he's been 20 years one of the best quarterbacks in football. He's had a longer career. He's had a better career. And although he's come up short in the postseason, and Eli in his 2 postseason attempts where he was good was incredible, you wouldn't trade that career. I have no problem with the question being asked. I have no problem with CJ Stroud answering the question, Frank. That's how media works these days.
I mean, yeah, he could do whatever he
Like,
wants, but
like, and CJ
go.
Stroud, what I like about CJ Stroud is he's open and he's honest and he'll kind of answer stuff. And he's a young kid who's not afraid to speak his mind. And frankly, I appreciate and like that. But the answer is Aaron Rodgers. As much as I love Eli Manning, as much as I want to name my first child Eli, boy or girl, like the reality of the situation is,
Is it for Eli Manning or another Eli?
oh, Eli Manning's not even close. The answer is Eli Manning every day of the week. I will continue to ride for Eli Manning as long as I humanly possibly can. The reality is, though, his career was not as good as Aaron Rodgers. End of story.
Fair point. I wish you would have had to. I thought you were going to argue for Eli, but you kind of disappointed me there, and disappointed all our millions of listeners, because I thought you were going to argue for Eli. But
No, I wish I could, but I can't.
Interesting sports media moment this week when Monica McNutt
Yes.
threw a complete uppercut at Stephen A. Smith, basically saying, like, Stephen A., you haven't talked about the NBA. Like, this is the only time you ever started talking about it. You had the ability to give them more attention if we started doing this 3 years ago. And Stephen A. was just like, wow. It was, you just don't see people that come on First Take and take such personal jabs at Stephen A. You would almost think that before they're on the show. I know Stephen A. wants like honest conversations, but like no personal attacks. I'm just surprised that she did that. I don't know if was she on the show the next day. I haven't followed
I think
it.
she was. Yeah, I think she was.
So that was clearly a case of like ESPN and Stephen A. trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna ban people for taking shots like that. But
he took a shot at her on his podcast. Ironically,
yeah, he made Monica McNutt. That was funny.
Listen, it is the beauty of having attention on your sport in ways that had never been before for the WNBA. It is also the downside, and the issue is not the right word, but it's part of what comes with the territories. If you want to be spoken about in the mainstream media in terms of the biggest shows on ESPN and First Take, you're going to have to deal with some of the repercussions that come out of the drama that comes from these discussions. And the reality of the situation is, could Stephen A. Smith have spoken about the WNBA prior to this season? Yes. Is Stephen A. Smith?
I mean, he said that he spoke about it more than any other platform, which I
don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. But the reality is, Frank, and we both worked in local TV. We both work now in more network TV. We can see the ratings. We know what stuff people want to watch, what stuff people don't want to watch. And the truth of the matter is, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's fair, I'm just telling you the truth of the matter, is that when you would bring up WNBA topics previously, people would turn the channel, would change the channel, turn the TV off. And when you have a 2-hour show, you got to keep guys and your guys and girls, your audience engaged throughout 2 hours. And when you have a topic like that, it doesn't resonate with a large portion of your fan base. So yeah, there's a reason the WNBA is being talked about now in ways it has never before. It's the entire rookie class. Caitlin Clark's the headliner, but it's the entire rookie class. It is the notoriety that these players and Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins in USC and some other women's basketball players that have done recently have brought to the game. And that's going to continue, and it's going to bring more money to the WNBA. At the end of the day, it's all going to make the product better. But in the moment, today, right now, this is the early stages of any sport getting mainstream notoriety, and you have to deal with people having opinions on things that they just started watching and having strong opinions and being asked to give strong takes on something that they frankly did not care about 4 months ago until they had to care about it because it had to be talked about. And like I said, it's the beauty and the grace of this. And my big point on the whole Caitlin Clark issue, Frank, and JJ Reddick and LeBron, when they started their podcast, Mind the Game, said this. They said, we want to focus just on the game. We want to give you X's and O's of the game. We don't want to focus on any of the other stuff. Well, 3 episodes in, they deviated from that and started talking about other stuff. And they still wrapped it around the game. The truth of the matter is, people love drama. Frank, what happens on the court does not matter. They would much rather talk about and much rather discuss the flagrant foul on Kennedy Carter and then Angel Reese's comments after than they would the actual 40 minutes of basketball or 48 minutes, whatever the WNBA. I think it's 40 minutes. It's 4 10-minute quarters. Whatever the 40 minutes on the court actually is. So, lo and behold, you can splice it any way you want. You can say you just want to hear basketball. We should focus on the game. But the reality of the situation is drama sells.
Oh, I know. I'm not arguing that. I think Caitlin Clark. I get players are like, oh, she's not the reason why that the league's getting all this attention, but she should be celebrated. Like, this is a very exciting time for the WNBA. Like, not that she should get a standing ovation everywhere she goes and should be bowed down to every arena she walks into, but she should be celebrated for coming in the league and having bringing that star presence. I mean, I get as a competitor, you don't want to ever feel like that there's another player that.
Oh, it's a lot of jealousy. And most of it comes from money. A lot of it starts from money. More than anything else, a lot of it starts from money. She's making more money in college than the best WNBA players are making over their entire WNBA careers. Like, a lot of it is money.
And it's just crazy. Like, the women's college basketball season, like literally, and then 2 weeks later, you're basically playing the WNBA. It's like literally a month ago, we were covering the national championship game in women's basketball with Iowa and South Carolina, and literally a month later, it's like all these players that were headlining the college basketball season are in the. It's like there's like no break. It's just right into it, right into the Olympics. It's just crazy how quickly that season goes. And then, at least in the men's game, there's a little more break. But let's transition to baseball. The New York Yankees scorching hot, 6 straight wins, huh?
Luis Hill.
So. I found this interesting. Michael Kay said on his show on Monday, and other people seem to believe this too, because right now it's a 2-person race for AL MVP: Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. Mike, who do you think?
Jose Ramirez is in that conversation.
Anyway, if we're looking at the odds, it is. Oh my God! So the odds for AL MVP right now are Judge is a favorite at +190, Soto's +210. Third is Gunnar Henderson. Fourth is Bobby Witt Jr. +700. Then we go to Kyle Tucker for the Astros +1200. Corey Seager and Jose Ramirez are +4,000. So he's not even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's
He
tied for
should
the
be in.
sixth best.
He should be in the conversation.
He's tied for the sixth best odds. I know you're in your Cleveland centric world, listen, Jose Ramirez is a great player. No one's disputing that. But for the sake of this conversation, it is a two-person race between Juan Soto and Aaron. At this very stage of the game, the Orioles, as great as the Yankees have played, the Orioles are still just one game back in the loss column. The Orioles scared the living you-know-what out of me. It would not shock me at all. I know they've lost a couple pitchers to injury, but to see them in the World Series would be the least surprising thing right now. And to see them even win the division over the Yankees wouldn't surprise me. They just have so much talent. They're so young. The sky is the absolute limit for them. But for the sake of this conversation, who do you think is the better baseball player? Because Michael Kay said Aaron Judge, unequivocally Aaron Judge. And I'm curious to see where you stand on that topic.
I still think it's Judge. I don't think it's unequivocally. I do still think it's Judge.
I think Soto's better. I think Soto, like, if there's a big moment in the game, if there's a big spot, I don't think there's a player in baseball I'd rather have up there than Juan Soto. He's so composed. His strike zone discipline is
It's incredible.
elite.
Yeah, listen, they're both incredible, Frank. But if you're looking overall baseball player, Judge is a better defensive player, which happens. Their offense is relatively equal. Judge is a better, more versatile defensive player. I think he's a little bit better of a base runner. And then their hitting's pretty equal. Judge has more power. Soto's a little more contact and on base. So, like, if I'm splitting hairs, and I think it is splitting hairs, I think these are two of the 5-6 best players in baseball, and it's hard to argue against that. I'm going to go with Judge just because I think he's better at the other facets of the game outside of just hitting.
He's definitely a better base runner, has a better arm, and is a better overall fielder. And I mean, like, he's not like a drastic. I mean, I guess he's hit more home runs. Obviously, I don't think Soto will ever hit 60 homers in a season. But I mean, he's got 17 homers. He's only 4 back of Judge.
Yeah.
So the power is close, but Soto hits the most majestic. I think
he's awesome.
It's hard because when Judge got hurt last year, the team just completely cratered. The difference Soto has made for this team, because the Yankees, if you just look at top to bottom what they did over the offseason, didn't make that many changes. The main difference was bringing in Juan Soto, and he has made every single difference possible. He has such a flair for the dramatic. He loves the big moments. He hits the most majestic home runs like I've ever seen. They're so pretty. I've watched that home run on Sunday in the 9th inning that he hit against the Giants off Camilo Doval, like 100-mile-an-hour pitch. Just completely crushed it. They're just a complete works of art, and I am just blown away about. I know maybe it's just partly new toy at the moment, and Judge had to listen. He had a May that basically he put
May for the agents.
Only like Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio have ever done like a single month in history of the Yankees. Like two of the, I mean, so absolutely insane. I just think Soto is Judge is listen. I'm taking nothing away from Judge. I just think Soto is a truly generational in terms of the way he.
The Yankees better resign him.
So that's what it comes down to is like, and I think the Yankees will re-sign Soto. I think you just gotta open up a blank check. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but assuming this continues, which hopefully it will,
he's been incredible.
Whatever he wants, you just gotta sort of take it. Like and the possibility that Soto will make more money than Judge, and Judge being like, well, I deserve to make more. If Judge has that, if that's his reaction to Soto getting a type of contract, then like, come on, man, like get with the program.
Judge is on money.
So he should not be complaining about that. A couple other notes about the Yankees. Luis Hill, absolute freaking ridiculous.
Incredible.
I believe he's 7-0. He went 6-0 in May with an ERA under like of 0.75 through 6 scoreless innings on Tuesday against Twins. Just completely ridiculous. I knew the big issue with Luis Hill was, could he get the command under control? And if he is locating, my goodness, my only fear about Luis Hill is the innings limit. Like, he could have easily gone 7-8 innings last night, but the Yankees pulled him after 87 pitches because he went 8 innings in his previous start. And now that Clark Schmidt is probably out till mid-August, like, they're gonna have to ride Luis Hill, and we'll see how the Yankees play it. I hope they don't have to pull him from their rotation or put him in the bullpen because he's so ridiculous. And I mean, he's not, in terms of odds, he's still pretty far back in terms of Cy Young odds. There's still 8-9 guys ahead of him, but in terms of just pure dominance of a pitcher this season, I don't think there's anyone who's been and since May 1st has been more dominant than Luis Seal. There just isn't.
No, I mean, Seth Lugo had been good until last night when he got rocked by the Guardians for 5 runs, but Heel's been incredible. Like watching him last night, I had the split screen up between the Guardians and the Yanks, Frank, and you're looking back and forth in every third pitch. It looks unhittable. Like even the greatest hitters in the world is making look foolish. And the fact that he's this young, this composed, this filthy already, man, sky's the damn limit for him.
Just a matter of staying healthy and not have. I mean, he's already had Tommy John surgery. He had a shoulder surgery, I believe, much earlier in his career. So it's just a matter of just health and keeping him on the field, and we'll see if how it plays out here going forward with how many innings he throws, because he's never really pitched a full big league season before. So we'll see. We'll see how the Yankees manage it. But Garrett Cole, first rehab start, 3 1/3 scoreless baseball, hasn't the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League has not thrown a single pitch for the Yankees this year. Right. They should not rush him back to start at Fenway Park in his first start back in about 10 or so days. That'd be a huge mistake. Because you don't want to throw him in a, not that the Red Sox are intimidating at all, but the Yankees should take every precaution with Cole. Do not rush him. And
there's no need to. Like, you have the luxury of taking your time because of how well you've played. So take your time and don't get too late.
The biggest point of quote unquote controversy for the Yankees this year, aside from Anthony Rizzo, who's been just hasn't looked the same since the concussion. So we'll see if he can get his form back at some point. And Gleyber Torres is sort of turning around a little bit. He homered a couple hits, big hits recently. So maybe he's starting to turn the corner a little bit. Still will not re-sign him. I think Oswald Peraza is a future second baseman. But the whole issue with Jason Dominguez, who is absolutely destroying the minor leagues right now. And if he didn't have Tommy John surgery, the Yankees would not have signed Alex Verdugo or not have traded for Alex Verdugo. And maybe they don't even trade for Soto either. The domino effect from that injury to Dominguez, I mean, possibly led the Yankees to getting Juan Soto. But Dominguez is like Judge and Soto, I believe, has the ability to be a generational talent. It just right now on the Yankees, there's no roster spot for him unless you basically have him ride the bench and take the Grisham role. It's disappointing though, because I truly believe that Jason Dominguez is a true difference maker. And you saw even that brief stretch he played for the Yankees last year. Like, he came in and they were all within the snap of a finger, like a legitimate awesome team immediately. It sucks that there's no spot for him right now. And these things always play themselves out.
It's a good problem to have, though, Frank. Like, at the end of the day, and I know you're saying it's a good problem. It's going to play itself out, and some's probably going to get hurt.
Stanton tonight could be running to first base, and his quad shatters into pieces, and now the answer is right there. And the Yankees weren't planning on Judge playing center field. It was supposed to be Dominguez, but Dominguez getting hurt moved Judge to center and created this whole effect of other things.
Yeah.
But I love Jason Dominguez. I wish he was here. He's so electric. And it's just a tough spot. And these things always play themselves. So we'll see how what goes down there. Unfortunately, your New York Rangers eliminated by the Florida Panthers. They led 2-1 in the series. It seemed like it was destiny. It was 30 years after 94. They had 2 back-to-back OT wins in games 2 and 3. It seemed like they had climbed whatever mountain they needed to. They went to overtime in game 4. Lost that, and then lost the remaining games. But now everyone's talking about the New York championship trap, which, by the way, is a joke because Gotham FC won the championship a year ago. So,
shut up. Here's the reasons. I will keep this short and sweet on the Rangers, Frank, because we got other things I want to make sure we hit on. The Panthers are really, really, really good. It was a physical team versus a more finesse team with the Rangers. I think the Rangers have maxed out their capabilities with this current construction. I think they need to add someone, and I know you can't just find Matthew Tkachuk's everywhere, but they need to find someone tough, physical, gritty, like a real dominant winger who is not just a finesse first player, which has had great regular season success, but they can't get over that playoff hump. And you look at the teams in the Stanley Cup Finals, and even Edmonton, who's a little more on the finesse side than the physical side, but you look at the teams who made the deepest runs. Physicality tends to win out in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they just didn't seem physical enough in my eyes. And they got to find a way. If they shake it up a little bit, so be it. I know they're good, but I think they've reached their ceiling, which is reaching the conference finals. They have to find a way. Have to find a way to get someone a little more physicality and a little more uh, grit and gumption, especially on the outside, to hang with the Floridas and the Washington, not the Washington, the Dallases and the Vegas Knights of the NHL. That's why I don't watch a ton of hockey, but that's my analysis from watching that.
I thought they had all the talent. I didn't think there was any reason why they couldn't beat the Panthers and win the cup.
But
Especially
Shesterkin kept them in games. Like a lot of those games were closer than they should have been. Like Florida, let's be honest, Florida dominated that series. The Rangers got lucky to win 2 games, both in overtime. And there was never a point where you felt comfortable. The puck was in their half of the ice in their zone way more often than it was in their offensive end of the zone. And just it was constant pressure, and it felt like Shesterkin had to save them and keep them in the games, even though the series was 4-2. It was close. The final score looked close. It never felt like they were on the same level as Florida. That was my opinion watching.
And now the stage is set for the Stanley Cup final. It will be the Florida Panthers against the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid. And full disclosure, I had never heard Connor McDavid talk in my life until his presser after the Oilers clinched the Western Conference. And my immediate reaction was, oh my God, this guy is an asshole. Like the way he was, it's like, I mean, I've dealt with players like this in the past when you're interviewing guys in the locker room or at a press conference or whatever, and you ask your question and they just they almost look down on you and give you a demeaning answer. And I was just surprised. I thought because usually Canadian athletes are extremely humble, down to earth, but McDavid was, it was almost like I'd be afraid to ask, say hi to him. I feel like if I said hi,
I have to go back and listen. I don't particularly remember.
I was just surprised. I thought he'd be extremely much more gracious. It seemed like he was mad. After they just clinched his first ever spot in the Stanley Cup final, it seemed like he was at that podium angry. I don't know at what. I guess I've never heard him talk, never heard him do anything in my life. I was just like, oh my God, why is he so angry? This should be one of the greatest moments of your life. But anyway, I was just surprised by that. Oilers, Panthers. Mike, who's your pick to win and why? Actually, just I don't even know why. Who's your pick and how many games?
I want Edmonton. I think Florida. I think 6.
Yeah, I think Florida's got this. Second year in a row in the Cup final. Edmonton has a lot of flaws. They just have an elite offense with Draisaitl and McDavid. We'll see how Stuart Skinner fares, but I think Florida's just the best team, and I think they'll win. Now the NBA Finals get underway Thursday night. It is going to be a painful series for me. I do not particularly like the Boston Celtics. I can't stand Kyrie Irving because of the way he treated the Nets and all the crap he did while he was there. But what would be more painful? Seeing Tatum and Bron win or Kyrie winning?
No, it's Boston. It's not even close. Boston's not even close. I am rooting hard for the Mavericks here, and it's a weird conundrum to be in because I don't particularly like Kyrie Irving, but my disdain for Boston sports is significantly higher than it is for Kyrie Irving, the player. Plus, I like a lot of the guys on the Mavs. And more than anything else, I like the constant fact that there's this question surrounding the Celtics. Can they finally accomplish the goal that they've been building so close to? And it would suck. And Frank, I know you're going to say Kyrie, and it's fine. It would suck to watch the Boston Celtics, led by 2 players who were drafted that came from picks directly from the Brooklyn Nets in a bad trade, culminate into a championship. So I'm rooting hard for the Mavericks, mostly for Luka Doncic, but I'm rooting hard for the Mavericks. And I like Jason Kidd.
You like Jason Kidd?
I like Jason Kidd. He's my favorite player of all time. I know it didn't work out in Brooklyn, but he's my favorite basketball player of all time.
I guess if we're just strictly talking about ability on the court and what they did as a player, I mean, Jason Kidd, what he did with the Nets was absolutely ridiculous, leading them to back-to-back finals appearances. Feel like they should have won a championship, but that's beside the point. It's tough. The only avenue I see for the Mavs to win this series is if Luka just says, screw everyone. I am going absolutely berserk, 45 to 50 points a game. And Kyrie plays that perfect Batman role, perfect Robin role. Whenever Luka needs a breather or whenever he decides to take the foot off the gas pedal for a second, Kyrie just comes in and hits those clutch shots. Other than that, Boston, I think, is clearly the better team. Tatum, Brown, Drew Holiday. We'll see how healthy Kristaps is, how long, if he holds up for the entire series. But I just think from top to bottom, Boston is a much, much better team. And the only way that the only avenue I see for Dallas to win. I was shocked that I think I have Celtics in 5. I think Celtics should make quick work of the Mavs. But the only avenue I see for Dallas is they have to, first of all, they have to win game 1, and they can't do what the Pacers did, where being in that situation in game 1 where you have the game basically won and you completely screw it up, and then everything just falls completely apart after that. Have to win game 1, and Luka has to be 45 to 50 points a game. Other than that, with Drew
No,
Holiday,
I agree with game 1, especially as Porzingis finds his sea legs. I don't think he has to score 45 or 50. I just think he has to control the game just like he did against Minnesota. Be the guy that on every single possession you are making Boston work, rotate, and then rotate again off the counter swing. And if you can do that, you can get Boston, because I understand Boston's a better team, but Luke is a better player than anyone on Boston. And I'm taking Jason Kidd over Joe Mazzulla in terms of the head coaching matchup 100 of 100 times. And when those two factors weigh heavily on one side, I tend to lean towards that team. Now, I'm picking Boston to win the series, even though I want Dallas, and I think Dallas, but everyone's on Dallas.
you think Dallas? I think Boston is
I
clearly
actually
better.
think Dallas is going to win the series, but
No, you
feel like
don't.
I talked myself out of it because everyone thinks that.
I mean, Boston, listen, they've been there, they've done that. Like they've been in this, they've come
Right,
so
this feels like,
close.
real quick, sorry to cut you off. This feels like the last 2 Super Bowls where you're betting against Mahomes and you're betting against Reed, where the better
Yeah,
team.
but no, that's different though, because they had already won Super Bowls before that. Like the not that the Celtics or Mavs in this iteration of them have ever won. So it's I don't think it's comparable to Mahomes. Luka's great. Obviously, he's, in my opinion, the best player in the NBA right now. But I just think the Celtics top to bottom, they're so complete. Like they're gonna need out of body performances from PJ Washington and Kleba. Like there's just so much of like that has to go right for Dallas to win the series, in my opinion. Like the Celtics can win a game where Jason Tatum goes, 4 of 18. Like they can do that. If Luka goes 4 of 18, the Mavericks are gonna lose by 100.
Yeah, I just don't know, and we're gonna find out. Was Boston were the games closer against Cleveland and Indiana and Miami in a lesser extent because they didn't have to ramp it up, or because they're just not as good as
They also didn't have Porzingis, who was out for all of that, and getting him back
but
is huge.
Porzingis can come back and play 6 minutes and hurt his ankle again. Like who knows what you're getting in Porzingis? He hasn't played in a month.
I think people are sort of, I mean, now that hearing what you're saying, they're sort of underestimating Dallas. I'm sorry, underestimating Boston. Boston's a juggernaut of a team. Drew Holiday is so clutch. He gets the most clutch steals, the most clutch rebounds. Like he even go back to his run with the Bucks when they won the championship. Like he had that steal. I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was a huge play at the end of the game that he made to clinch a series.
The alley-oop. No, listen, Boston's the better team. There's a reason they're a minus 225 favorite to win the series. I just don't think Boston is necessarily as much of a juggernaut as I think their regular season success showed. And
listen, the East was terrible. The East was absolutely abysmal. So, and that
regard, tested, and Dallas has, and once again, I'm going to end up picking Boston because too many people are on Dallas, and Dallas feels way too popular as an underdog pick here. But 3 things that matter in a series: who is the best player? Dallas. Who is the best coach? Dallas. And who is the best coach?
You believe Kidd's a better coach than Mazzulla?
I don't believe I know for 100% guaranteed fact he's a better coach than Mazzulla.
Okay.
So, and they're the best closer, and maybe the 2 best closers in the series. So, to me, it wouldn't be crazy if Dallas wins. I'm picking Boston in 7. But it would not be crazy to me if Dallas pulled it off.
The biggest reason why I want the Mavericks to win is because the Mavericks win this series, and the Celtics can't win it this year. Like, then all of a sudden, there's so many questions about the future of the Celtics, and they can't just keep running it back year in year out. Like, it feels like at some point, unless they just keep this core of players and hope that something changes. But I just think with the addition of Drew Holiday, like, let's just put them completely over the top, and they should honestly. The Milwaukee Bucks almost should get they should give a championship ring to the Bucks GM for making that trade for Lillard because he deserves one.
I agree with that too.
All right, and that will do it for this edition of Lucas Podcast. We'll reconvene next week following game number 2 when the Celtics take a 2-0 series lead, and we'll figure out what went so wrong for the Dallas Mavericks in the first 2 games of the series, and hopefully the Yankees keep on doing their thing.
Peace.